Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with a question. If everyone thinks you're crazy, are you wrong or are you early? When I first shared my big idea with friends, they laughed. One of them said, "That's not even possible in China." Another asked, "Are you okay? Do you need a break?" But you know what I learned that day? The first sign you're onto something real is when nobody else believes you. So, what's the one rule for success? Oh, don't quit. It's not fancy, it's not a secret, but it's the hardest thing to do. Let me tell you something honest. Rejection is the greatest teacher you'll ever meet. I got rejected from schools, from jobs, even from being a waiter. One hotel rejected me because they said I didn't look polite enough. Even KFC said no. But here's what most people miss. Every no adds a new lesson to your character. And one day, your story becomes stronger than your CV. You see, success is not about being the smartest. If it was, professors would be billionaires. It's about endurance. It's about hearing you can't and choosing to believe anyway. And when you finally start something, whether it's a company or a dream, don't try to be the hero. Find people smarter than you, hungrier than you, more creative than you. Build something bigger than yourself. You'll grow because of your team, not in spite of them. Also, don't be scared of being broke. When you're broke, you learn to hustle. You learn to listen. You learn humility. And the best part, you take nothing for granted. Look, there's no shortcut. There's no magic. Just a simple rule. Don't quit. Not after rejection, not after failure. Not even when you're the only one left believing, because the moment you give up, you erase all the work, all the pain, all the nights you stayed up dreaming. So my friends, whatever you're chasing, business, music, art, science, remember, it only takes one person to believe in the dream. Let that one person be you. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had an idea so strange, so wild that people laughed at you? If not, maybe your ideas are too safe. You see, in the early days of any dream, there's one thing you can almost guarantee. No one else will see what you see. They'll say it's unrealistic or foolish or even impossible. And sometimes the first reaction you'll get is not encouragement, but laughter. I still remember when I shared my first big idea. I told a friend, I want to build something on the internet. He looked at me and said, "Internet? You don't even know how to code." Another one laughed and said, "You don't even have a computer. Maybe you should try something simpler like opening a noodle shop." They weren't being mean. In their minds, they were helping me avoid failure. But here's the problem. They were only looking at what I was, not what I could become. That's the danger of listening to laughter instead of listening to your inner voice. People judge based on what they know, and they usually don't know your vision. They can't see the picture in your head. They only see your background, your grades, your bank account. That's why they laugh. Not because you're wrong, but because you're trying something they would never dare to try. The truth is, every great idea starts out sounding a little stupid. When people laughed at the idea of electric cars, someone kept building. When people laughed at the idea of online shopping, someone kept selling. When people laughed at the idea of talking to a phone and getting answers, someone kept coding. It's always the same story. The people with vision sound crazy until they don't. But let's be honest. Believing in yourself when everyone else is laughing is hard. Very hard. Because laughter makes you question yourself. You start thinking, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm dreaming too big. Maybe I'm not smart enough. That's the moment where most people give up. Not because the idea was bad, but because the noise was too loud. You know what's funny? The same people who laughed at you in the beginning, if you succeed, they're the first ones to say, "I always knew you had it in you." That's how it goes. So, how do you stay strong in the face of laughter? You don't fight the laughers. You don't waste time arguing. You just keep working. You take their laughter and you use it. You turn it into motivation. You turn it into fuel. And little by little, you prove with results what words could never explain. Sometimes the laughter will come from people close to you, family, friends, even teachers. That's when it really hurts. But understand this, they're not laughing because they don't love you. They're laughing because they don't want you to get hurt. They want you to play it safe. But if you always play it safe, you'll never do anything truly bold. Every time someone laughs at your dream, you have a choice. You can shrink your dream to fit their reality, or you can keep building your own reality so big that their laughter gets drowned out by your results. The world doesn't need more people who play it safe. The world needs more people crazy enough to try, brave enough to fail, and stubborn enough to get back up again. And that begins with one simple decision: believe when others laugh, not after, not once it's popular, not when it's easy. Believe at the very beginning when it's hardest. When you're alone with your idea and the world is full of doubt, and the only thing louder than the noise outside is the voice inside your heart saying, try anyway. When I was young, like many people, I thought success would come if I just worked hard, followed the rules, and got everything right. I thought the goal was to be perfect. But life has a funny way of showing you that perfection teaches very little. It's rejection that pushes you to grow. It's the closed doors, the failed attempts, the no thank you emails that shape you far more than praise ever will. I still remember the first time I got rejected from a job. I walked in with my best clothes, my resume printed perfectly, and a big smile on my face. I thought, this is it. I'm ready. 5 minutes later, they said, sorry, you're not what we're looking for. I didn't even get to finish my sentence. I felt small. I felt invisible, but looking back, that moment taught me more than any classroom ever did. I realized the world doesn't owe you anything just because you try. You have to earn your way through the pain of rejection. Most people run from rejection. They avoid it, they fear it, but the truth is, rejection is not the opposite of success. It's part of it. Proclaim it, say it, name it. You don't learn how to build a strong business career or mindset by always getting it right. You learn by failing, adjusting, and coming back smarter. Think about it. When something goes perfectly, you celebrate, but you rarely reflect. You don't ask, why did this go well? You just enjoy it. But when you're rejected, you sit with the question, what went wrong? That's where growth begins. I've failed exams. I've been turned down by schools. I've been rejected from dozens of jobs. Some so basic I thought, how did I not get this one? I even got rejected by companies I built partnerships with later. The irony is that many of the places that once said no eventually had to say yes after I stopped chasing perfection and started learning from rejection. Perfection makes you afraid to take risks. You hesitate because you don't want to mess up. You want to impress everyone. But rejection does the opposite. It forces you to take risks because you have nothing to lose. And when you have nothing to lose, you gain the courage to try again. That courage is more valuable than any perfect resume. When people say no to you, they're not defining your worth. They're simply giving you information. Information about what needs improvement, what's missing, or what you might not be ready for yet. If you listen carefully, rejection becomes feedback, and feedback becomes your blueprint for growth. You'll notice something else too. The people who fear rejection the most are often the ones who stay stuck the longest. They want every detail to be perfect before they act. But the world doesn't reward perfection, it rewards progress. And progress comes from showing up. Even when you're unsure. Even after you failed 10 times in a row. There's also a strange gift in rejection. It teaches you how to handle pain without quitting. It builds emotional strength, it teaches patience, it builds resilience in a way that success never could. Rejection makes you humble, and humility opens the door to learning. Everyone loves a success story, but behind every real success story, there's a long list of rejections. What separates those who make it from those who give up is not how perfectly they started, it's how they handled rejection along the way. You can spend your life chasing perfection and waiting for the perfect moment, or you can start now, fail a little, get rejected a lot, and grow into someone who can handle the success when it finally arrives. Every no is just training for your future yes. Every failure is a page in the manual of how to do it better next time. And if you're not getting rejected at all, maybe you're not aiming high enough. There's a strange advantage in being broke. Most people don't see it that way. They think being broke means being behind, being unlucky, or being stuck. But if you look deeper, you'll realize something. When you're broke, you have no choice but to hustle. You wake up early, you think creatively, and you find a way, not because it's comfortable, but because survival demands it. In the early days, when I had nothing, no money, no connections, no power, I worked like my life depended on it, because in many ways it did. I couldn't afford to be lazy. I couldn't afford to wait for perfect timing. I had to knock on doors, face rejection, and try again. And while I had very little in my hands, I had something powerful in my mind, a vision bigger than my reality. That's what it means to work like you're broke, but think like a billionaire. Broke forces you to be resourceful. You fix things instead of replacing them. You learn instead of hiring. You stretch every dollar, every hour, every opportunity. It's uncomfortable, but it's also honest. There's no room for ego, no room for pretending. You either build something or you don't eat. And in that pressure, real creativity is born. But thinking like a billionaire, that's about mindset. It doesn't mean being obsessed with money. It means thinking long-term, thinking scale, thinking about value, not just income. When you think like a billionaire, you stop chasing quick wins and start building systems. You stop focusing on what's in your pocket and start focusing on what's in your potential. The problem is, too many people reverse the formula. They work like billionaires, slow, comfortable, entitled, and think like they're broke, always afraid to take risks, always doubting themselves, always focused on what they don't have. That mindset leads nowhere. If you want to build something meaningful, you need the drive of someone with nothing to lose and the vision of someone who sees the entire board. When you combine those two forces, you become dangerous in the best way possible. There's a story I love. A small team was working out of a cafe trying to launch a product. They had no office, no funding, just an idea. While other people were busy printing business cards, they were busy selling their first version. While others waited for investment, they used borrowed laptops and late nights. They worked like they were broke, because they were. But they planned like giants. They spoke about their product as if millions of people would use it one day. And eventually, they did. Why? Because effort alone isn't enough. And vision alone isn't enough. You need both. The sweat and the strategy. The hunger and the horizon. Sometimes people ask, when do I stop working like I'm broke? The answer is, you don't. No matter how far you go. That mindset keeps you sharp. The moment you think you've made it, you slow down. You stop taking the same risks. You stop pushing, and eventually, someone with less experience but more hunger will pass you. Working like you're broke doesn't mean being reckless. It means being relentless. It means showing up early, staying late, and never believing you're too good for the basics. It means being willing to do what others ignore, because you're not building for today, you're building for what comes next. Thinking like a billionaire means making decisions based on where you're going, not where you are. It means solving problems at scale, building teams that can grow without you, and designing a life, not just a job. It's about asking not just how do I survive this month, but how do I create something that lasts 10 years? People might look at your clothes, your car, your bank account, and assume you're small. Let them. What matters isn't how you look, it's how you think, how you grind, how you build. When you work with the energy of someone who has nothing and think with the clarity of someone who owns everything, you become unstoppable in a way no title or salary can match. One of the biggest mistakes leaders make is trying to be the smartest person in the room. They think leadership means having all the answers, making every decision, solving every problem. But the truth is, real leadership isn't about knowing everything. It's about finding people who know what you don't. Early in my journey, I was scared to hire people smarter than me. I thought, what if they outshine me? What if they don't listen? What if I lose control? But that fear was based on insecurity, not strength. And over time, I realized something simple but powerful. If you're the smartest person on your team is in trouble. Building anything big, whether it's a company, a product, or vision, requires skills that no single person can master alone. You might be good at strategy, but weak in execution. You might be a great communicator, but terrible with numbers. You might have bold ideas, but no idea how to design them. That's why you need people who are better than you in specific areas, not just good people, exceptional ones. And here's the funny part. Smart people don't like working for insecure bosses. If your ego's too big to admit what you don't know, you'll drive away the talent you need most. But if you respect their intelligence, challenge them to grow, and give them space to lead, you'll be amazed at what happens. I once hired a young developer who had zero management experience, but he understood technology in a way I never could. I gave him freedom, trust, and responsibility. At first, I was nervous. I didn't understand half the things he said, but I stayed out of his way, and the product he helped build ended up becoming the backbone of our company's growth. That's when it clicked for me. My job is not to be the best at everything. My job is to build a team where everyone gets to be the best at something. Hiring smarter people doesn't mean stepping back entirely. It means knowing where to step aside and where to guide. You set the vision, the values, the direction, but you let your team bring the tools, the answers, the execution. This is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of confidence. Only a strong leader can admit they're not the smartest. There's also a practical reason to hire people smarter than you. They raise the bar for everyone else. When your team sees someone sharp, disciplined, and forward-thinking, it inspires them to level up too. Mediocrity spreads fast, but so does excellence. And the people you surround yourself with define your pace and your future. Of course, hiring smarter people also means you need to get comfortable with being challenged. They'll disagree with you. They'll point out flaws in your ideas. They'll bring perspectives you didn't consider. That's exactly what you need, because when everyone just says yes, mistakes get repeated, blind spots grow. But when smart people speak up, they help protect you from yourself. The biggest companies in the world weren't built by one genius. They were built by groups of people, each smarter than the founder in one area. That's how innovation happens, not from one brain doing everything, but from multiple brilliant minds working in sync. Sometimes people worry, if I hire someone smarter, won't they take my job? That mindset is backward. If someone on your team is strong enough to take your role, it means you did your job well. It means you created a culture of growth and trust. And if your company or project grows because of them, you'll rise too. So if you're building something, anything, don't just look for people you can manage. Look for people who can challenge you, teach you, even outthink you. Give them the tools, the vision, and the freedom to lead. Because your future depends less on how much you know and more on how wisely you choose those who know more than you. The truth is, it's easy to start. Everyone loves to start. Starting is exciting. Starting feels brave. People cheer for you when you begin. They say, wow, good luck. That's so inspiring. But what they don't tell you is that starting is not the hard part. Staying is. Holding on when no one is watching. Showing up when no one believes anymore. Continuing even when you're the only one left who still cares. There was a time I thought I was building something important, and I had people beside me, a small team, a shared dream. We were motivated, it says, but as the work got harder, the money ran low, and the failures piled up, people started disappearing, one by one. Some found safer jobs, others got tired of waiting, some said maybe it's just not meant to be. That's when the real test begins. Not when you have people clapping for you, but when you're sitting alone in a room, wondering if you're the only fool still trying. That's when most people quit. Not because they're weak, but because they feel abandoned. They think, if everyone else gave up, maybe I should too. But here's what most people don't understand. The final stage before success often looks exactly like failure. It's quiet, it's painful, it's full of self-doubt. And the only thing separating those who make it from those who don't is the decision to keep going even when it doesn't make sense anymore. Sometimes people will look at you like you're crazy. They'll say, still working on that? It's been years. They'll laugh, not out of cruelty, but because they can't imagine holding on that long. But if you want to build something truly meaningful, you must be willing to be misunderstood. You must be willing to walk alone, because the path to anything great is never crowded. The strongest people I know aren't the loudest or the smartest or even the most talented. They're the ones who stayed. The ones who didn't quit when everyone else walked away. The ones who were the last one at the table, still trying to solve the puzzle, still chasing the vision that nobody else could see. Being the last one standing doesn't mean you're stubborn. It means you believe in something deeply enough to fight for it, without applause, without company, without reward. It means your dream is not dependent on comfort or convenience. It's anchored in purpose. And when your purpose is clear, quitting is no longer an option. It's just noise you learn to ignore. There's a moment in every journey where the finish line is closer than it feels, but you can't see it because you're tired, you're frustrated, you're out of breath. That's why most people stop right before the breakthrough, because it doesn't look like a breakthrough. It looks like one more failure, one more setback, one more reason to let go. But if you push through that silence, that loneliness, that invisible wall, something changes. People who once doubted you start to notice. Opportunities that once ignored you begin to open. But those rewards only come to the one who stayed long enough to see them. You don't need 1,000 people to believe in you. You just need one. You. When you're the last one standing, you learn to rely on yourself. You become your own motivation, your own support system, your own reason to keep going. And that kind of strength doesn't come from books or podcasts or motivational speeches. It comes from walking through fire and choosing not to sit down. From hearing no 100 times and saying, I'll try again the next morning. From being exhausted, disappointed, broke, and still building. In conclusion, if there's one rule for success that rises above all others, it is this: never stop believing, building, and becoming, no matter how hard the journey gets. Success is not luck, it is not talent alone. It's the mindset of persistence, humility, and learning through pain. Believe when others laugh. Learn from rejection, not perfection. Work like you're broke, but think like a visionary. Hire people who are smarter than you, and never quit, even if you're the last one standing. Success isn't achieved by those who start with everything. It's achieved by those who keep going when everything is falling apart. It belongs to the ones who stay curious, who stay driven, and who stay patient. People will doubt you, markets will change, plans will fail. But if you commit to constant growth, surround yourself with great minds, and show up every day with purpose, you've already separated yourself from 99% of the crowd. There is no single path, but the rule that guides them all is simply keep moving forward with courage, clarity, and consistency. When you live by that rule, success isn't just possible, because success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about outlasting doubt. The doubt of others, the doubt in yourself, the doubt that creeps in when progress feels invisible. I've stood in rooms where people whisper behind my back. I've read emails that said, this will never work. I've watched mentors shake their heads and say, you're wasting your time. And yet, here's the secret they don't teach you. None of those voices determine your future unless you let them. You want to know the real difference between those who make it and those who don't? The ones who make it aren't immune to fear. They just refuse to let fear negotiate their effort. Think about the last time you quit something. Was it because you truly couldn't go on? Or was it because the discomfort of continuing outweighed your belief in the outcome? That's the crossroads where dreams either die or get stronger. Let me tell you about a friend of mine. He spent 7 years building an app no one wanted. 7 years of this is stupid and why bother? 7 years of empty bank accounts and silent phones. Then one morning, without warning, the world caught up. Today, that app serves millions. Was he lucky? Only if you consider stubbornness luck. Here's what I want you to remember when you're the last one standing. History doesn't remember the reasonable. The sensible people who quit when things got hard, they become footnotes. The ones who stayed, they rewrite entire chapters. So when the room empties out, when the applause fades, when even your closest allies start slipping away, That's not your cue to leave. That's your signal to dig deeper. Because the most extraordinary things in life, the breakthroughs, the masterpieces, the legacies are built not by committees, but by the lone believer who refused to exit the building. Be that person.